We advise the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
My name is Mark de Kuiper. I'm the 11th generation of the Kuiper Royal Distillers. I'm 30 years old and I live in Amsterdam. The Kuiper was founded in 1695. We started making barrels, and in 1752 we started to produce Geneva gin. And these days we only mainly focus on liqueurs, the range of colors and flavors for the cocktail industry.
I would say the next generation are those family members who will take on the responsibility of managing the wealth of the family or managing a business in the future or even in the near future.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Conan. And on this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight's topic is once again about business, specifically family-run businesses. Now, you know, family-run businesses are really integral to our economy because, as we know, small and medium-scale enterprises, number one, provide valuable employment, and number two, contribute a lot to gross domestic product. And while we've heard of a lot of family businesses that have been successful, there have also been a lot of cases of failures. You know, people who have gone bankrupt, people who have lost their shirts, people who have gone out of business. And tonight, we are going to talk about how to manage family businesses well, and the strategies for success, and what to do to avoid failure. And joining us now is an expert on managing family businesses, none other than Professor Eric Soriano of the Ateneo Graduate School of Business, the finest business school in the country. Good evening, Prof. Soriano. Welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Good evening, Buddy. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you. I'm glad I was able to corral you finally because you're so busy. You're like everywhere, sir, huh?
Yeah. It's been a very hectic year, 2012. So many talks in Asia.
Good. Better busy than idle.
Yes, absolutely.
And Prof, when I said that the Ateneo is the best business school in the country, siguro I'm a bit biased because I'm a product of the AGSB, there is where I first met you.
Yes.
About 7-8 years ago. We were taking marketing management. So you've been a professor in the Ateneo Graduate School of Business for a long time.
Yes, I think counting since 97.
97.
When the Ateneo Regis started.
Okay.
And for the record, you were one of the best students in my class.
Thank you, sir. Salamat po. Now, okay, aside from your work as a professor in the AGSB, tell us about your background. What are you involved in? What were you in the corporate world? What were your major involvements?
Well, I'm semi-active. I've been very heavy on family advisory work. I'm pretty much termed as a family coach. I do a lot of turnaround advisory work as well, mostly family businesses. Well, as far as my background, I've been teaching since '92. Then 25 years in the corporate world. I was with United Laboratories Group. I was with Andrew Tan Mega World Group. And my last engagement in the property sector was the first CEO of Resorts World.
Famous Resorts World.
Yes, and then I moved to the retirement and wellness program, and I was group CEO of Bello Medical also.
Okay.
That was in
very famous again, Bello Medical Group.
During the time, I was very active in the retirement industry, and I discovered that the global retirement age is actually 39 years old. So from then on, I decided to eventually become semi-active and move to the advisory realm.
Yes. Now, it sounds like your experience is really broad. You've covered a lot of bases, a lot of different sectors.
Yes.
Now, what led you, and I understand you write a column now for specifically for family businesses.
Yes, I write a column for 3 newspapers. One is a Filipino-American newspaper in the U.S. It's Asian Journal. I also write a national column. It's called Opinion, and I also write a column in the province, Panay News, and Sun Star. All of this on family, business, and succession.
How do you manage your time?
Well, since I left corporate world, I have been engaged with so many research, and therefore it was natural for me to write columns on the weekend to submit for the day's newspaper. So pretty much I was able to hack it.
Very good, very good. Now, Prof, what led you to this advocacy of yours, of helping family businesses? I mean, I'm sure this is not just a job for you. It really is a calling.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
what led you to this?
Well, way back when I was engaged with the United Laboratories Group, it was a family business. And I was part of the ExCom for its real estate arm. And therefore, I saw a lot of opportunities and dynamics. And there was a need also for possibly some science in the way family businesses are run. Moving towards Mega World, I had the fortune of training Andrew's eldest son, Kevin,
Wow.
for close to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
From the time he became my third employee to the time when I left, when I made him vice president for the lifestyle malls. So during those periods, I would also encounter students asking for assistance and possibly intervention on the dynamics of family businesses. So I realized the importance of putting some science in any family business for the simple reason that a big bulk of the economy is obviously under a family business structure.
Yes. I mentioned that in the opening spiel. I said it really contributes a lot. I wanted to use the word backbone of the economy because really I think the future for our economy, for the country's economy, is really more employers, less employees, because that's how you generate economic activity.
Yes. But surprisingly, easily around 70 to 75% of the Philippine economy is being managed under a family business structure. Yes.
Wow.
And that's not just the Philippine perspective. Asia, Indonesia, easily around 80%. Hong Kong, around 72%. Even in Europe, there are countries like Sweden that's being run around 80 to 90% family-owned businesses. So you're looking here at a huge contribution, a significant share of the global economy under the tutelage of the family business.
And you said 75% here. Is this a norm for Asia? Are we the same as, or similar to Thailand?
I think we are similar to Indonesia. We're similar to Hong Kong. We're similar to a little less than, of course, Singapore at around 67%. But generally, I think we're within the range of 60-70% run and influenced by family businesses.
Okay. Now, when we talk about the Philippine setting, when you say family businesses or family-run businesses, which industries usually do you find the most of these family businesses in?
Oh, they're very diverse. My background, wellness, retirement, and real estate, a big chunk of that are family-owned, from the Ayalas,
the big ones,
to the Gokongways, to you can name it. I think the top 10 players, easily around 80% are family-owned businesses, from the Villars to my former boss, Andrew Tan. But if you look at it from that context, I think it's in the trading business, especially agriculture, that's dominated by family businesses.
Yes, and the thing is, people don't realize the huge scale of SMEs. Really,
Yes,
you only see the big companies, we only hear about them, but we don't really pay attention to the small guys, which play a vital role, really, in the economy.
Correct. Yes.
Now, okay, it's interesting because you mentioned your desire to try to put a science into the family business set up, and is this because, let's say, perhaps when a lot of people get into business, do people here in the Philippines approach starting a business, let's say, from the point of view of proper management, like with a business plan, with proper market research before they get into it? What is the practice here in the Philippines?
Well, again, from that context, it really depends. If it's a SME, obviously it's really what we call starting from emotion. It's never about science. In all likelihood, because they have limited funds. So when they have limited funds, they're trying to rationalize their allocation of funds, and therefore they'd rather focus more on selling to survive. And so there's likely less on research, there's likely less on a business plan like what we normally articulate in the business school.
Yes.
So once they have moved to a medium scale where there's pressure because of the bigness of the business, the number of employees they have, they'll normally engage research and some science to address their the financial dynamics and manufacturing issues. So, but from the onset, it's really all about art, less on science for SMEs.
Like gut feel,
And
like,
gut feel, emotion. We call it eyeball management. And from then, they graduate and progress. But the sad part is the visionary will hang on as if there's
no tomorrow.
He's an immortal.
Yes.
And
we see that happening a lot of big companies and small ones.
You read it in the papers every day.
Yes, no. I want to get that, but before we get to that, okay, let's talk about this transition. You said from small to medium. Is it difficult for a lot of businesses to make this transition? Because as you said, when they start a business, it's more about emotion, eyeball management. It's more about gut feel. But then they find themselves in a position when they've grown considerably, and then now they have to adjust now to different landscape. Maybe more, as you said, more employees. Their business has grown. Is it easy for them to adjust? I mean, what is the...
I have a favorite quote every time I'm invited to talk. Visionaries would go through all the cycles in a particular business. From visionary, entrepreneurial, and eventually they take it to their grave. I normally refer to that as the apparitionaries na. From visionaries to being an apparition. So what happens there is they become fixated on the way they run their business and very autocratic, as if what they did 20 years back would still work. And for obvious reasons, anything that's less than 5 years old is probably obsolete. So therefore, when the children start to help run the business, you now encounter the conflict, resistance to change, and the children will end up just order taking from the visionary.
Until the visionary becomes, as you said, an apparition.
Yes.
Until he passes on.
Yes.
Then
he holds on, because in the book that I recently finished, we have what we call a life raft philosophy. It's really survival. The visionary started with nothing, literally nothing, zero. And so he brings in pure hard work and pure art, no science. And he grows the business, and he's holding on. He's obsessed in making sure that business will not fail. So even with professionals, even with children coming in from wonderful schools, he still clings on to that philosophy that what he did before would still work. And therefore, he basically controls the business from an autocratic point of view. We call it the emperor perspective. And that emperor perspective, simply whatever he does, is like an atlas carrying the whole load. And therefore, he runs it as it continuously grows.
And very dangerous. No?
That's where the danger lies.
And very dangerous because I guess under that kind of mindset and setup, very, very unopen to criticism maybe, or to new ideas, or other people's opinions.
Yes.
And continue.
He decides based on whim.
Yes.
He decides based on what he feels that's for today, not for the future.
Yeah.
And therefore, you lose professionals. A lot of managers will also leave you because they have no way to manage or probably be empowered to make decisions. So the children also, basically, whatever they learn in school will never be applied. And therefore, that's when the real conflict happens.
And also because probably, Prof, you can remember I'm wrong. Like, example, a lot of these family-owned businesses that have been started by an icon, like Padre de Familia. Usually, when the kids start coming up, I guess every parent will always look at the kid as, however grown up the child is.
5-year-old, 7-year-old,
5-year-old in
probably
their
in
mind.
shorts, yeah.
So Have you
Yes.
encountered this kind of
Oh,
problem?
absolutely. In my engagement in Singapore, for instance, in discussions with business owners, they cannot seem to graduate from the fact that the children are already in their 20s. And therefore, the trust issue, the competence issue is not there. So they'll end up making decisions on their own and relegating the children as what we normally refer to again in family business vernacular as idiot son. When you say idiot son, we're talking here of a son who literally has no power and will just wait for the demise of the father and then take over. By the time he takes over, he's probably 50 or 60 years old. No competence at all. And then the business starts to...
COO, child of owner.
Yes, child of owner. We call that, no offense to Prince Charles, but it's the Prince Charles syndrome.
That is an excellent example, actually. In the TV, it's happening.
Yes.
Now, so succession is a problem. How do you surmount this? How do you change the mindset of the head of an organization or company who's been there forever and who has an alpha personality, which most of them are alpha personalities?
Yes. This is where we normally step in. Most of the time, the children are the ones that would seek us out. For instance, in Asia, in one engagement I had in Jakarta, a child of owner had to look for a colleague at the Ateneo to seek me out. And if I could possibly fly to Jakarta to talk to the father, but that's not easy. A father with, 3,000 employees who feels he's high and mighty and made decisions in the millions of dollars cannot just simply talk to me and right there and then. So I told the son, it takes time. Maybe if there's an opportunity, I'd fly there, but purely on a coffee talk arrangement. So it is a process, and because these visionaries don't know any iota of what family coaching, family advisory work is all about. So what we normally do as an intervention is we encourage them to attend workshops. We encourage them to attend talks. We send them videos.
Let them realize for themselves.
For themselves, in the confines of their room. I let them read my columns about family business. And it takes time. The process takes time.
Of course.
And from there, they would call me, oftentimes in the middle of the night. I read your column. After a few months, I've decided to meet up with you. Can you fly tomorrow? Of that sort. So that's when we start the engagement process. I walk them through a story. And that at the end of the day, I would always provoke them that they're all one heartbeat away. And businesses will survive, but founders will never survive. They will die by default.
Yeah, it's a problem with a lot of people, captains of industry, as you mentioned earlier. They think they'll live forever.
Yes.
But no one does.
Yes.
And I can't take with you.
I have friends that delayed the whole process of succession, and unfortunately, they were not able to see the light.
Yes.
They died in the process of waiting.
Had it been done earlier, the company would have been able to respond better
Absolutely.
and been more successful.
Yes. Succession is a process. It takes easily from 2 years to 5 years. And as I've said and repeatedly highlighted this in my talks and engagements, it is time to start now, not tomorrow, because at any point in time, visionaries will simply be triggered by a sudden illness, a marriage in the family, a divorce, for instance, in other countries, or simply a debilitating condition.
Yes.
That's so many things can happen. That's why a process must be in place.
This is very common, this succession problem in family-owned businesses. Is it a common thing with small and large companies?
In the Philippines, it's getting some momentum of sorts. I've had, like this year, I've had around 40 talks, primarily on family business and succession. Some of them initiated by the Ateneo in the different provinces.
Yep.
And Normally, I would normally expect a classroom size because traditionally in the past few years, we've had crowds of that sort. But now it has doubled and tripled. We've run out of seats most of the time because family members have been attending with their fathers and oftentimes with their sisters. So there has been a snowballing effect on the need to really create a certain level of infrastructure for family business.
And I understand you had recently had a very successful talk in Cebu.
Yes, yes.
About this precisely.
Yes, I had a talk, I think 2 weeks back. My expectation was just a handful of classroom size. That's why I had it in Banilad in a Chinese restaurant, but it ballooned to around 80 to 90 people. So then their questions were almost the same. How can we start the process? How can you convince my father? What is the dimension in the succession process? There are 5 siblings. What should be the shareholdings and equity and voting rights? But I said, you cannot do that in less than a day. In the Ateneo, where we are planning to offer a family business course.
I was just about to say that because I said, I finished my MBA and under you in one class, and I said, all these things you're telling me, you never even touched on this in my MBA.
Yes. Finally, the Ateneo Graduate School of Business has started to experiment on creating a program where I will likely be a lecturer there. And so far, the response, as a matter of fact, this was a product of so many family members who enrolled at the Ateneo clamoring for a family succession or family business course. So we finally relented, and we're going to offer it January.
Very timely because there is already an entrepreneur course in Ateneo, no? But this, what happens after you start the business, diba? As it matures, then there's nothing there. I mean, until now, you said there's nothing available.
Yes, for child of owners.
Yes, for child of owner. And the reason why your talks are being mobbed almost, I want to use the word mob, as you said, double, triple your expected attendance, because, there really is a deficit of material out there at the moment, no? And I understand you're writing a book on this precisely.
Yes, I finally finished a book on powerful insights on succession and leadership. Hopefully it's going to come out from the National Bookstore. They're now in the publishing committee. They're working on the finishing touches, and expectedly it's going to come out hopefully first quarter of next year. I'm actually writing a second book already on a compilation of all the columns that I wrote about family business and succession. Again, because most of the readers of my column were asking for a real book where they can actually, get it in the bookstore. So there's been some momentum of sorts, and it's an advocacy because every time I talk about, say, marketing or business turnaround, which I really love to do, there's always, 60 to 70% of the participants are family members. And they would always say, hey, yeah, we can do a lot of strategic initiatives, but, if my dad wants his way, we're at his mercy.
It's his way or the highway, no?
Exactly. So again, there is that dynamic again on that particular issue.
But I want to stress that your point earlier when I said, how do you convince them to change their minds? Now, because it's not like you can force them. You have to let them realize for themselves. Now, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Oh, yeah. There was one particular example where I was requested to fly to Hong Kong. The father was ready to talk to me. Then when I arrived at Cheklap, the family called. The father decided to no longer talk to me. And I said, okay, but I will bill them for my time.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, it takes really a painstaking process.
Of course.
It's really patient capital on the family and my end.
Yes.
So I don't want to force them to go through the whole exercise in their time, but of course with some influence and proddings from the children and sometimes from the spouse to really convince the so-called Atlas patriarch to just listen to me. And from there, normally it works. It moves forward.
Hey, Prof, hold that thought because you have to pause for a break. Guys, don't go away because Philippines Uncut and managing family business well will return after these short reminders. Finally, because you're so busy. You're like everywhere, sir, huh?
Yeah. It's been a very hectic year, 2012. So many talks in Asia.
Good. Better busy than idle. Ano po?
Yes, absolutely.
And Prof, when I said that the Ateneo is the best business school in the country, siguro I'm a bit biased because I'm a product of the AGSB, there is where I first met you.
Yes.
About 7-8 years ago. We were taking marketing management. So you've been a professor in the Ateneo Graduate School of Business for a long time.
Yes, I think counting since 97.
97.
When the Ateneo Regis started.
Okay.
And for the record, you were one of the best students in my class.
Thank you, sir. Salamat po. Now, okay.
My name is Mark de Kuiper. I'm the 11th generation of the Kuiper Royal Distillers. I'm 30 years old and I live in Amsterdam. The Kuiper was founded in 1695. We started making barrels, and in 1752 we started to produce Geneva gin. And these days we only mainly focus on
We advise the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
liqueurs, the range of colors and flavors for the cocktail industry.
I would say the next generation are those family members who will take on the responsibility of managing the wealth of the family or managing a business in the future or even in the near future.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Conanan. On this show, we talk about everything under the sun, and tonight's topic is once again about business, specifically family-run businesses. Now, you know, family-run businesses are really integral to our economy because, as we know, small and medium-scale enterprises, number one, provide valuable employment, and number two, contribute a lot to gross domestic product. And while we've heard of a lot of family businesses that have been successful, there have also been a lot of cases of failures. You know, people who have gone bankrupt, people who have lost their shirts, people who have gone out of business. And tonight, we are going to talk about how to manage family businesses well, and the strategies for success, and what to do to avoid failure. And joining us now is an expert on managing family businesses, none other than Professor Eric Soriano of the Ateneo Graduate School of Business, the finest business school in the country. Good evening, Prof. Soriano. Welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Good evening, Buddy. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you. I'm glad I was able to corral you